Welcome to Dialogue, a true crime conversation. I'm Rebecca Sebastian. I am host of this podcast, this true crime interview weekly show, and I'm here with some summer updates. In light of this summer season, I am going to be playing for the next 4 weeks new to you episodes, but they are previously recorded for Patreon only. So the episodes you're going to hear are fantastic. They are part of a series and a companion show to Dialogue called DIE-ALOGUE, a courtroom conversation, where I go very specific into one case or question around a case or a trial with mostly legal experts. Sometimes it's an author or somebody who's very close to a case. They might not be a lawyer, but mostly it's lawyers. And I'm releasing them here on the main feed for a couple of reasons. One, they're just really good and I want you guys to hear them. Two, I need a little bit of time this summer to plan season 3. So season 2 officially closed. This is now going to be our summer series of trialogue and bonus content. So it's not replays. I'm just moving them from Patreon for everybody so that you can hear them and I can get to work to come back strong with season 3. So with that, please enjoy today's episode of Dialogue/Trialogue, which was with my friend, my podcast cohort, Dr. Scott, one half of the podcast, LA Not So Confidential. Dr. Shiloh, I'm coming for you. You're going to be next. We talk about the very topical, timely, current issue of conservatorships as related to Britney Spears. And for anyone who doesn't know, Dr. Scott and Dr. Shiloh did an extensive episode on this, episode 71 of their podcast. And he works with clients and advocates for them in court around conservatorship. So he was the perfect guest. Also, he was a dancer. So let's be real. There is not a better guest to speak on the subject than Dr. Scott. So please enjoy this conversation. Have a beautiful summer. Don't go anywhere. Nothing's really going to change for you. Just wanted to let you know that what you're hearing are previously recorded standalone bonus episodes. And if you would like to be a patron to get these first, also to get regular episodes ad-free and early, head on over to patreon.com/dialogue. And if you aren't already, please follow me at Dialogue Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And check out my website, rebeccasebastian.com, for all the things that I'm up to, including my newsletter. All right, here's Dr. Scott on Britney Spears and conservatorships. Hey, diehards. Welcome to this bonus episode of Trialogue, a courtroom conversation, which is a companion to Dialogue, a true crime conversation. I feel so lucky that I got to sit down with my friend and podcast colleague, Dr. Scott of LA Not So Confidential podcast, to discuss the very current, relevant, in the news saga surrounding Britney Spears and conservatorships. Now, I chose Dr. Scott because, well, he's kind of a pop culture icon himself, and also because he did an extensive episode with his other half, Dr. Shiloh, on their podcast, LA Not So Confidential. It was episode 71, and if you want a deeper dive into conservatorships, you should absolutely listen to theirs. It's called Overprotected, Conservatorships, 5150s, and the Britney Spears Saga. Additionally, as you'll hear, Dr. Scott works with people in conservatorships in his actual vocation. So he can really speak to what a conservatorship is. He defines the different types. And what we come to figure out is the one Britney is in exists almost in an entirely different category. So we'll get into that. I'm also going to play the full audio of Britney's testimony at the most recent hearing. I think it's important to hear for yourself because Dr. Scott talks about what he hears in her voice and in her words. With that, please enjoy the episode with Dr. Scott of LA Not So Confidential podcast.
I will be honest with you, I haven't been back to court in a long time because I don't think I was heard on any level when I came to court the last time. I brought 4 sheets of paper in my hands and wrote in length what I had been through the last 4 months before I came there. The people who did that to me should not be able to walk away so easily. I'll recap. I was on tour in 2018. I was forced to do. My management said if I don't do this tour, I will have to find an attorney.
Ms. Spears, I hate to interrupt you, but my court reporter is taking down what you're saying.
Okay.
And so you have to speak a little more slowly.
Of course, yes. Okay,
and
I apologize.
make a
Great.
record of everything you're saying.
Okay.
Sure. Now,
The people who did this to me should not get away and to be able to walk away so easily. Recap. I was on tour in 2018. I was forced to do. My management said if I don't do this tour, I will have to find an attorney, and by contract, my own management could sue me if I didn't follow through with the tour. He handed me a sheet of paper as I got off the stage in Vegas and said I had to sign it. It was very threatening and scary, and with the conservatorship, I couldn't even get my own attorney, so out of fear, I went ahead and I did the tour. When I came off that tour, a new show in Las Vegas was supposed to take place. I started rehearsing early, but it was hard because I'd been doing Vegas for 4 years and I needed a break in between. But no, I was told this is the timeline and this is how it's going to go. I rehearsed 4 to 4 days a week, half of the time in the studio and half of the other time in a Westlake studio. I was basically directing most of the show with my whereabouts, where I preferred to rehearse, and actually did most of the choreography, meaning I taught my dancers my new choreography myself. I take everything I do very seriously. There's tons of video with me at rehearsals. I wasn't good. I was great. I led a room of 16 new dancers in rehearsals. It's funny to hear my manager's side of the story. They all said I wasn't participating in rehearsals and I never agreed to take my medication, which my medication is only taken in the mornings, never at rehearsal. They don't even see me. So why are they even claiming that? When I said no to one dance move into rehearsals, it was as if I planted a huge bomb somewhere. And I said, no, I don't want to do it this way. After that, my management and my dancers and my assistant of the new people that were supposed to do the new show all went into a room, shut the door, and didn't come out for at least 45 minutes. Ma'am, I'm not here to be anyone's slave. I can say no to a dance move. I was told by my, at the time, therapist, Dr. Benson, who died, that my manager called him in that moment and told him I wasn't cooperating or following the guidelines in rehearsals. And he also said I wasn't taking my medication, which is so dumb because I've had the same lady every morning for the past 8 years give me my same medication, and I'm nowhere near these stupid people. It made no sense at all. There was a week period where they were nice to me and they said, I don't want to do, and I told them I don't want to do the, they were nice to me. They said, if I don't want to do the new Vegas show, I don't have to, because I was getting really nervous. I said, I can wait. It was like, they told me I could wait. It was like lifting literally 200 pounds off of me when they said I don't have to do the show anymore, because I was really, really hard on myself and it was too much. I couldn't take it anymore. So I remember telling my assistant, but you know what? I feel weird if I say no. I feel like they're going to come back and be mean to me or punish me or something. 3 days later, after I said no to Vegas, my therapist sat me down in a room and said he had a million phone calls about how I was not cooperating in rehearsals and I haven't been taking my medication. All of this was false. He immediately the next day put me on lithium out of nowhere. He took me off my normal meds I'd been on for 5 years. And lithium is a very, very strong and completely different medication compared to what I was used to. You can go mentally impaired if you take too much, if you stay on it longer than 5 months. But he put me on that and I felt drunk. I really couldn't even take up for myself. I couldn't even have a conversation with my mom or dad really about anything. I told them I was scared and my doctor had me on 6 different nurses with this new medication come to my home, stay with me, to monitor me on this new medication, which I never wanted to be on to begin with. There were 6 different nurses in my homes and they wouldn't let me get in my car to go anywhere for a month. Not only did my family not do a goddamn thing, my dad was all for it. Anything that happened to me had to be approved by my dad. And my dad he acted like he didn't know that I was told I had to be tested over the Christmas holidays before they sent me away when my kids went home to Louisiana. He was the one who approved all of it. My whole family did nothing. Over the 2-week holiday, a lady came into my home for 4 hours a day, sat me down and did a psych test on me. It took forever. But I was told I had to then, after that I got off, I was told I had to then, after I got a phone call from my dad saying, after I did the psych test with this lady, basically saying I had failed the test or whatever, I'm sorry, Britney, you have to listen to your doctors. They are planning to send you to a small home in Beverly Hills to do a small rehab program that we're going to make up for you. You're going to pay $60,000 a month for this. I cried on the phone for an hour and he loved every minute of it. The control he had over someone as powerful as me, as he loved the control to hurt his own daughter 100,000%, He loved it. I packed my bags and went to that place. I worked 7 days a week, no days off, which in California, the only similar thing to this is called sex trafficking, making anyone work against their will, taking all their possessions away, credit card, cash, phone, passport card, and placing them in a home where they work with the people who live with them. They all lived in the house with me, the nurses, the 24/7 security. There was one chef that came there and cooked for me daily during the weekdays. They watched me changed every day, naked, morning, noon, and night. My body, I had no privacy door for my room. I gave 8 gallons of blood a week. If I didn't do any of my meetings and work from 8 to 6 at night, which is 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, no days off, I wouldn't be able to see my kids or my boyfriend. I never had a say in my schedule. They always told me I had to do this. And ma'am, I will tell you, sitting in a chair 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, it ain't fun. And especially when you can't walk out the front door. And that's why I'm telling you this again 2 years later. After I've lied and told the whole world I'm okay and I'm happy, it's a lie. I thought I said that enough. Maybe I might become happy because I've been in denial. I've been in shock. I am traumatized. Fake it till you make it. But now I'm telling you the truth, okay? I'm not happy. I can't sleep. I'm so angry, it's insane, and I'm depressed. I cry every day, and the reason I'm telling you this is because I don't think how the state of California can have all this written in the court documents from the time I showed up and do absolutely nothing, just hire with my money another person to keep my dad on board. Ma'am, my dad and anyone involved in this conservatorship and my management who played a huge role in punishing me when I said, no, ma'am, they should be in jail. Their cool tactics working for Miley Cyrus as she smokes on joints and stage at the VMAs. Nothing is ever done to this generation for doing wrong things. But my precious body, who's worked for my dad for the past fucking 13 years, trying to be so good and pretty, so perfect when he works me so hard, when I do everything I'm told in the state of California, allowed my ignorant father to take his own daughter, who only has a role with me if I work with him. They set back the whole course and allowed him to do that to me. That's giving these people I've worked for way too much control. They also threatened me and said if I don't go, then I have to go to court. And it will be more embarrassing me if the judge publicly makes you go the evidence we have. You have to go. I was advised for my image, I need to go ahead and just go and get it over with. They said that to me. I don't even drink alcohol. I should drink alcohol considering what they put my heart through. Also, the Bridges facility they sent me to, none of the kids, I was doing this program for 4 months. So the last 2 months I went to a Bridges facility. None of the kids there did the program. They never showed up for any of them. You didn't have to do anything if you didn't want to. How come they always made me go? How come I was always threatened by my dad and anybody that participated in this conservatorship? If I don't do this, what they tell me to enslave me to do, they're going to punish me. The last time I spoke to you by just keeping the conservatorship going and also keeping my dad in the loop made me feel like I was dead, like I didn't matter, like nothing had been done to me, like you thought I was lying or something. I'm telling you again because I'm not lying. I want to feel heard, and I'm telling you this again so maybe you can understand the depth and the degree and the damage that they did to me back then. I want changes, and I want changes going forward. I deserve changes. I was told I have to sit down and be evaluated again if I want to end the conservatorship. Ma'am, I didn't know I could petition the conservatorship to end it. I'm sorry for my ignorance, but I honestly didn't know that. But honestly, I don't think I owe anyone to be evaluated. I've done more than enough. I don't feel like I should even be in a room with anyone to offend me by trying to question my capacity of intelligence, whether I need to be in this stupid conservatorship or not. I've done more than enough. I don't owe these people anything, especially me, the one that has roofed and fed tons of people on tour on the road. It's embarrassing and demoralizing what I've been through. And that's the main reason. I've never said it openly. And mainly I didn't want to say it openly because I honestly didn't think anyone would believe me. To be honest with you, the Paris Hilton story on what they did to her to that school, I didn't believe any of it. I'm sorry. I'm an outsider, and I'll just be honest. I didn't believe it. And maybe I'm wrong. And that's why I didn't want to say any of this to anybody, to the public, because I thought people would make fun of me or laugh at me and say, she's lying. She's got everything. She's Britney Spears. I'm not lying. I just want my life back. And it's been 13 years and it's enough. It's been a long time since I've owned my money, and it's my wish and my dream for all of this to end. without being tested. Again, it makes no sense whatsoever for the state of California to sit back and literally watch me with their own two eyes make a living for so many people and pay so many people trucks and buses on tour on the road with me and be told I'm not good enough. But I'm great at what I do. And I allow these people to control what I do, ma'am, and it's enough. It makes no sense at all. Now, going forward, I'm not willing to meet or see anyone I've met with enough people against my will. I'm done. All I want is to own my money for this to end and my boyfriend to drive me in his fucking car. And I would honestly like to sue my family, to be totally honest with you. I also would like to be able to share my story with the world and what they did to me instead of it being a hush-hush secret to benefit all of them. I want to be able to be heard on what they did to me by making me keep this in for so long is not good for my heart. I've been so angry and I cry every day. It concerns me. I'm told I'm not allowed to expose the people who did this to me. For my sanity, I need you to the judge to approve me, do an interview where I can be heard on what they did to me. And actually, I have the right to use my voice and take up for myself. My attorney says I can't, it's not good. I can't let the public know anything they did to me. And by not saying anything is saying it's okay. I don't know what I said here. It's not okay. I don't want to interview. I'd much rather just have an open call to you for the press to hear, which I didn't know today we're doing. So thank you. Instead of having an interview, honestly, I need that to get it off my heart, the anger and all of it that's been happening. It's not fair they're telling me lies about me openly. Even my family, they do interviews to anyone they want on news stations, my own family doing interviews and talking about the situation and making me feel so stupid. And I can't say one thing. And my own people say I can't say anything. It's been 2 years. I want a recorded call to you. Actually, we're doing this now, which I didn't know that we were doing this. To the public who knows what they did to me. I told I know my lawyer, Sam, has been very scared for me to go forward because he's saying if I speak up, I'm being overworked in that facility of that rehab place. The rehab place will sue me. He told me I should keep it to myself, really. I would personally like to, actually, I know I've had grown with a personal relationship with Sam, my lawyer. I've been talking to him like 3 times a week now. We've kind of built a relationship, but I haven't really had the opportunity by my own self to actually handpick my own lawyer by myself. And I would like to be able to do that. I would like to also, the main reason why I'm here is because I want to end the conservatorship without having to be evaluated. I've done a lot of research, ma'am, and there's a lot of judges who do end conservatorships for people without them having to be evaluated all the time. The only times they don't is if a concerned family member says something's wrong with this person and otherwise. And considering my family has lived off my conservatorship for 13 years, I won't be surprised if one of them has something to say and go forward and say, we don't think this should end. We have to help her, especially if I get my fair served in turning, exposing what they did to me. Also, I want to speak to you about, at the moment, my obligations, which I personally don't think at the very moment I owe anybody anything. I have 3 meetings a week I have to attend no matter what. I just don't like feeling like I work for the people whom I pay. I don't like being told I have to no matter what, even if I'm sick. Jody, the conservator, says I have to see my coach Ken even when I'm sick. I would like to do 1 meeting a week with a therapist. I've never, even before they sent me to that place, had 2 therapy sessions. A therapy session and 1 therapy session with I have a doctor and then a therapy person. What I've been forced to do illegal in my life, I shouldn't be told I have to be available 3 times a week to these people I don't know. I'm talking to you today because I feel, again, yes, even Jody is starting to kind of take it too far with me. They have me going to therapy twice a week and a psychiatrist. I've never in the past they have me going, twice a week and Dr. Gold, so that's 3 times a week. I've never in the past had to see a therapist more than once a week. It takes too much out of me going to this man I don't know. Number 1, I'm scared of people. I don't trust people with what I've been through. And the clever setup of being in Westlake, one of the most exposed places in Westlake, which yesterday, paparazzi showed me coming out of the place literally crying in therapy. It's embarrassing and it's demoralizing. I deserve privacy when I go. I deserve privacy when I go and have therapy, either at my home, like I've done for 8 years. They've always come to my home, or when the Dr. Benson, the man that died, I went to a place similar to what I went to in Westlake, which was very exposed and really bad. Okay, so wait, where was I? In Westlake, it was identical to Dr. Basement, who died, the one who illegally, yes, 100% abused me by the treatment he gave me too. And to be totally honest with you, I was so.
Excuse me for interrupting you, but my reporter says if you could just slow down a little bit, because she's trying to make sure she gets everything that you're saying.
Okay, cool.
And so if you could,
Okay.
that would be great.
I have been through, and the clever setup in Westlake is identical to Dr. Benson, who died, the one who illegally, yes, 100% abused me by the treatment he gave me. And to be totally honest with you, when he passed away, I got on my knees and thanked God. In other words, my team is pushing it with me again. I have trapped phobias being in small rooms because the trauma locking me up for 4 months in that place is not okay for them to send me, sorry, I'm going fast, to that small room like that twice a week with another new therapist I pay that I never even approved. I don't like it. I don't want to do that. And I haven't done anything wrong to deserve this treatment. It's not okay to force me to do anything I don't want to do. By law, Jody and this so-called team I should be able to sue them for threatening me and saying, if I don't go and do these meetings twice a week, we can't let you have your money and go to Maui on your vacations. You have to do what you're told for this program, and then you will be able to go. But it was very clever. They picked one of the most exposed places in Westlake, knowing I have the hot topic of the conservatorship, that over 5 paparazzis are going to show up and get me crying coming out of that place. I begged them to make sure that they did this at my home so I would have privacy. I deserve privacy. The whole conservatorship from the beginning, once the conservatorship from the beginning, once you see someone, whoever it is in the conservatorship, making them money and myself money and working, that whole statement right there, the conservatorship should end. There should be I shouldn't be in a conservatorship if I can work and provide money and work for myself and pay other people. It makes no sense. The laws need to change. What state allows people to own another person's money and account and threaten them and saying, you can't spend your money unless you do what we want you to do, and I'm paying them? Ma'am, I've worked since I was 17 years old. You have to understand how thin that is for me. Every morning I get up to know I can't go on somewhere unless I meet people I don't know every week in an office identical to the one where the therapist was very abusive to me. I truly believe this conservatorship is abusive. And now we can sit here all day and say, oh, conservatorships are here to help people. But ma'am, there's 1,000 conservatorships that are abusive as well. I don't feel like I can live a full life. I don't owe them to go see a man I don't know and share him my problems. I don't even believe in therapy. I always think you take it to God. I want to end the conservatorship without being evaluated. In the meantime, I want this therapist once a week. He can either come to my home. No, I just want him to come to my home. I'm not willing to go to Westlake and be embarrassed by all these paparazzi, these scummy paparazzi laughing at my faces while I'm crying, coming out and taking my pictures as all these white, nice dinners with people drinking wine at restaurants, watching me leave these places. They set me up by sending me to the most exposed places. And I told them I didn't want to go there because I knew paparazzi would show up there. They only gave me 2 options for therapists, and I'm not sure how you make your decisions, ma'am, but this is the only chance for me to talk to you for a while. I need your help. So if you can just kind of let me know where your head is. I don't really honestly know what to say, but my requests are just to end the conservatorship without being evaluated. I want a petition basically to end the conservatorship, but I want it to be petition to end it, but I don't want to be evaluated and be sat in a room with people 4 hours a day like they did me before. And they made it even worse for me after that happened. So I'm honestly new at this, and I'm doing research on all these things. I do know common sense and the method that things can end. For people, it has ended without them being evaluated. So I just want you to take that in consideration. I've also done research. Also took a year during COVID to get me any self-care methods during COVID. She said there were no services available. She's lying, Mom. ma'am. My mom went to the spa twice in Louisiana during COVID. For a year, I didn't have my nails done, no hairstyling and no massages, no acupuncture, nothing for a year. I saw the maids in my home each week with their nails done different each time. She made me feel like my dad does, very similar, her behavior and my dad, but just a different dynamic. Team wants me to work and stay home instead of having longer vacations. They are used to me sort of doing a weekly routine for them, and I'm over it. I don't feel like I owe them anything at this point. They need to be reminded they actually work for me. They tricked me by sending me to the, okay, I repeated myself there. Also, I was supposed to be able to, I have a friend that I used to do AA meetings with. I did AA for 2 years. I have I did 3 meetings a week. I met a bunch of women there, and I'm not able to see my friends that live 8 minutes away from me, which I find extremely strange. I feel like they're making me feel like I live in a rehab program. This is my home. I'd like for my boyfriend to be able to drive me in his car. And I want to meet with a therapist once a week, not twice a week. And I want him to come to my home because I actually know I do need a little therapy. I was told, hold on. I think and I would like to progressively move forward, and I want to have the real deal. I want to be able to get married and have a baby. I was told right now in the conservatorship, I'm not able to get married or have a baby. I have a ID inside of myself right now, so I don't get pregnant. I wanted to take the ID out so I could start trying to have another baby, but this so-called team won't let me go to the doctor to take it out because they don't want me to have any more children. So basically, this conservatorship is doing me way more harm than good. I deserve to have a life. I've worked my whole life. I deserve to have a 2 to 3 year break and just, do what I want to do. But I do feel like there is a crunch here, and I feel like I feel open and I'm okay to talk to you today about it. But I wish I could stay with you on the phone forever, because when I get off the phone with you, all of a sudden, I hear all these no's. No, no, no. And then all of a sudden I feel ganged up on, and I feel bullied, and I feel left out and alone. And I'm tired of feeling alone. I deserve to have the same rights as anybody does by having a child, a family, any of those things, and more so. And that's all I wanted to say to you. And thank you so much for letting me speak to you today.
Dr. Scott, welcome to DIE-ALOGUE, which is a bonus edition of Dialogue where we have courtroom conversations. So nice to see you.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you. This is a fascinating topic. And I'm really happy that you're doing the in-depth discussion that's going to include some issues about people's rights and stigma against mental illness or mental health. And I'm glad you're having this dialogue.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you specifically being here for this specific topic, because your and Dr. Shiloh's episode on Britney Spears and conservatorships is going down as a top 3 for me. I was going to say 5, but I'm really putting it up there. I loved your episode on this. I loved how passionate you got, and we can't cover everything. Britney Spears is like an endless conversation, but I really want to focus on conservatorship. I think what her case has done is put that word in all of our vernacular now that so many of us had no experience with, but I know you have. And that's what I'd like to start with, is defining conservatorship in the most, accessible way that you know how for us who aren't as familiar, and how your work ended up being in that space.
Sure. So aside from 90 minutes of LA Not So Confidential talking about the issue and kind of going really globally all over the place, I think what you and I today should do is focus on just like definitions and particulars to this case as I observe them. And I do want to be upfront with your listeners. I am a licensed clinical psychologist working in a forensic capacity in the Los Angeles area. I'm going to be very careful about what I say today, and I'm not going to make any diagnostic statements, but I will be making some observations on behavior that I think are really important to this case. So having said that, in the state of California, and this varies across the country, there are two forms of conservatorship. The most common one really is called probate conservatorship. And that is where the individual, which I'll be calling the client, that individual continues to live in the community, but a payee is in charge of their money. So that means that they may have an estate or a trust, or they may be getting disability benefits from the government, but this person has been determined to not be able to handle their own finances. So they are free in the community to reside in a number of different ways. They might live with family. They might live in what we call a board and care, or a version of an assisted living that deals with mental health. And that being said, all of conservatorship revolves around issues of mental health. I think that's something that's being avoided in the discussion. Which we'll circle back around to, but conservatorships exist for individuals who have impaired mental capacities or significant mental health challenges. So probate refers to money, the payee, the person who's designated in charge of this individual's money. Probate conservatorship has a really limited compunction or an impact on the client. So it doesn't have teeth in any way, shape, or form except for money. It cannot force treatment. It cannot mandate treatment. It cannot force medication. Sometimes the holder of the money has a bit of influence, but when I've been in the position of being part of a conservatorship procedure, we always advise the families to have an outside payee. And the reason for that is because money causes problems in relationships, especially when someone may have an impaired ability to understand why decisions are being made in their best interest. So we always say, look, you're going to have a better home life with your mother, father, son, daughter, grandfather, cousin, if this external person is the one giving them their money each week. It just reduces the tension. Now, so that's probate conservatorship. The other one is LPS conservatorship. Lanterman Pederis is the name. Lanterman Pederis short is the name of the law here in California. It only pertains to California, so other states would have something else. But an LPS conservatorship is the most restrictive type of conservatorship, and that's where the client is held in a locked facility, which is a psychiatric facility or a psychiatric ward, for an indeterminate amount of time, but never lifetime conservatorship. There is no such thing as a lifetime conservatorship, because conservatorships always come up for reappraisal, at least on a yearly basis. And in my experience over the past 3 years, they've been coming up actually even more rapidly than every year.
Interesting.
Yes. So LPS conservatorship is achieved by determining what the functioning level of the individual is. So is the person a danger to themselves on a consistent, chronic basis? Are they a danger to others and the community on a chronic and consistent basis and a severe basis? Or are they gravely disabled? And gravely disabled has some flexibility in its definition, but it really is about people who cannot engage in activities of daily living. This is a person who, if food is put in front of them, doesn't necessarily know to eat, to take in nutrition into their body.
Okay.
So we're talking about some pretty severe criteria, right?
And so from the first to the second, the first obviously doesn't apply to Britney Spears.
Clearly.
The second sounds a bit more extreme, although I would argue she is locked up. She's just not in a facility per se. She's in a beautiful home.
Absolutely.
So is it this second one that actually is the kind that she's under? Or a version of?
That's very interesting, because until we did the dive on this, because I wasn't completely familiar with all of it, although I had started to do more research in the Free Britney movement. And that was when I had several WTF moments because this is what I do. This is part of my day job. Aside from being a podcast person with a stage name, I have a legit practice in the community. This is something that doesn't exist. Like it's being described in the media as a business conservatorship. That's not a thing according to state law. So it's clear that the court system has carved something out because there was a lot of money to throw at it. This is not a general conservatorship. And my impression, I'm really, like you said, I'm very passionate about this. I'm really disturbed to realize what's going on, because I come in contact with clients within the community pretty much on a weekly basis that clearly meet criteria for conservatorship, and we can't get them conserved because it's a long, laborious process. And you know what? It should be. I was just
going to say, we don't want this to be too easy.
No, because it used to be. I mean, it actually was very easy in the past, and it was used as a way to silence people, to put people away. And it was really used against women primarily. If you didn't like what your wife was doing, if you didn't like the way your daughter was acting, and you had a few bucks to throw at a judge, it was easy to get someone locked up for a very long time.
Yikes. I mean,
so
that's dark. And that also sounds kind of like what's being done to Britney right now. And she's paying for it all, which is like I don't know what's the most egregious part, but one of the most horrifying factors is everyone's getting paid by her in this scenario.
It's really twisted. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Rebecca. It's really twisted.
It breaks my heart.
So I completely agree. This is a challenge for me as a citizen, because we're talking about people's civil rights. Yeah. It's a problem for me as a clinician because this is not done in this way. It's hard for me, again, as a citizen, to see someone that basically seems like they have been propped up and been kept confined and coerced into engaging in activities to keep this flow of money going. That is, I don't know where else I've seen that in our modern world, except possibly in the old Hollywood studio system, which was at times very, very toxic towards women. And as weird as it sounds, like one of the parallels I would use is Judy Garland growing up. Judy Garland was part of the studio system, and what Mayer said at the time was law. And if they told you that you needed to smoke 30 cigarettes a day and take Benzedrine in order to stay skinny enough to their liking, and then you had to take some sort of tranquilizer at night to go to sleep, and you weren't allowed to eat anything, they intimidated child stars for years and used them in a very restrictive way. And then in some ways that we'll never know. We'll never know about how bad it got for many of those people that are no longer alive. But in this case, it's untenable what is being done, especially after my experience of watching the documentary, where this young woman is speaking very calmly and very cohesively and in a very organized manner about how unhappy she is, and sort of just going along with the flow. That's not representative of the rights that we're allowed here in the US. I did want to circle back around to something about the challenges of actually achieving a conservatorship. Yeah. So conservatorships, LPS, that are restricted in a locked psych ward or in what we call an IMD, an intermediary bed, those can really only be achieved in one of two ways. And that is if the client is coming directly from a locked psychiatric hospitalization where they have been placed on a 5150 hold or an extended hold of a 5250 or longer. It is a long process. The other way it can happen is that the person, because of their activities in the community that may be a result of mental health and potentially criminal activities, they are now incarcerated. And in Southern California, if you have mental illness and you are incarcerated, you are definitely placed in mental health housing that gives you special consideration for that issue. And if it is appropriate to pursue a conservatorship through that means, there's a process that either the hospital or the jail goes through. And it is a long process. It is not taken lightly. It involves multiple evaluations. It involves multiple layers of administration and working with legal entities. And even then, if the person is going from a locked hospital setting, what bed are they going to go to? What beds are available in LA County? And to be honest, there are not a lot of beds available because we shut down all of our state hospitals a long time ago. So it's really challenging. Hospitals can't afford to house clients for sometimes up to a year and a half, 2 years waiting on a bed. That is an incredible financial burden on the hospital that may or may not be paid by private insurance or may have to come from state funds. I mean, it's a very complex issue. So the idea that this has just all happened so quickly, and that and right now also that she's not being evaluated appropriately. During the documentary, she talks about wanting to be evaluated and they wouldn't let her, and they told her she did not have the right to hire an attorney and that she did not have the right to have an evaluation. I don't understand how that could happen. And I was echoed, clearly I'm echoing the other legal entities that were involved in that process as well. They were saying the same thing. That goes against every process that we have here in California.
So, okay, mental health and mental illness are coming up a lot. What do we know about Britney's diagnosis on record? Or do we definitively know? Is it bipolar, or is that just speculation that everybody now has sort of come to believe is the case?
Oh, well, there has not been a diagnosis disclosed officially, and it's kind of none of our business. You know, it's protected by confidentiality. It's protected by HIPAA, which is a federal law. But having said that, and not intending to be coy about it, you don't, like, one of the things that I see in the media and even in TMZ describing what the information that they've been giving is that she's on a business conservatorship for medical reasons. And that's concerning to me, because that's not really an accurate representation, and not giving an accurate representation of what is happening. Let's stop stigmatizing mental health issues. We've all got mental health issues. There's no one in the world that gets away from mental health issues at some point in their life, even if it's transitional depression or transitional grief. You know, we need to stop talking about it as if it's an identity rather than just an issue that needs to be addressed and supported by our world, right? So HIPAA is part of confidentiality and protects an individual's right to not have their medical or mental health issues discussed in an open forum. So that's one of the reasons that we don't have actually an accurate diagnosis. And it's almost secondary. I mean, what I'll say is that I don't understand why they're saying it's for medical reasons. Conservatorships happen as a result of mental health reasons. Yes, we do have elderly people or individuals with early onset diagnoses of dementia or Alzheimer's. And technically, Alzheimer's is a medical issue. So in that carve out, but clearly Britney does not have dementia or Alzheimer's, right? So let's just say that she has some behaviors that appear to have been problematic.
Okay, sure.
Right? Let's talk about it in sort of behaviors. My observation in the documentary is that there are pieces that were chosen that show her as being very cohesive in her thought, organized in her thought, organized in her speech, and somewhat depressed, you know, like she seemed really sad. What I will say is that as an observation of what was revealed from the courtroom in the recording, is that her speech is very pressured.
Yeah.
And pressured is a diagnostic or just a descriptoral term we use to describe speech that doesn't make space for a lot of punctuation. It doesn't make space for breath. It can also encompass tangentiality, which means it's branching off into other semi-related ideas and eventually comes back.
Interesting.
So one of the things that you see is her speech is pressured. She is tangential, even though she does come back to try and finish off ideas. And she also elaborates on certain aspects of her ideas.
Yeah.
And if we're correct in this assumption that she was reading from the 4 pages that she had handwritten, there's a lot of repeat of some of the ideas. Her punctuation is pretty bad in a way that was not observed during the documentary. So my idea is that I'm getting an idea that she seems very agitated. She seems upset. She comes across as frustrated. Her speech is pressured. Now, I want to put that in a framework, though. This is a major life event for her. She is under an incredible amount of pressure. I don't know anyone except someone who is incredibly cool that would be able to be in that situation and present 100% perfectly. This is a big deal. She's fighting for her rights. Anyone would be nervous.
So I want to pause right there because you said nervous. And when you were talking about pressured, I had interpreted, I hadn't used that word or thought to, and you defined it, but I was thinking she sounds nervous in a way that like the stakes are really high. Of course she's nervous. She's rushing through, but you're saying there might be more to that than nerves.
Yes, it seems to me to be charged with something else. Because, I would say that someone that's in this position that has taken the time to write down notes would be better served by making those bullet points and saying less than sort of circling around. What she's doing is she's circling around to the same ideas over and over. And there is, at some points, some unraveling where things don't make quite the sense that she would want them to make sense. However, all of that being said, I'm impressed that she held it together as well as she did, and that she was able to make some incredibly valid points. And now, one thing that I did want to say about all of this, that's sort of an overarching issue, Rebecca, is that, yes, there are people that have gotten off conservatorships without an additional evaluation. She seems very determined and almost fixated on, I do not want to be evaluated. My idea is that with the right evaluator, thinking of it in terms of what is best for this person and their level of functioning, I think it would be in her benefit. I think it actually would benefit her to get an evaluator, but it needs to be somebody that has not been set up by her manager's attorneys or her dad's attorneys.
Exactly. Okay, 2 things. One, the other reaction I had to hearing her full speech in court was that, some of your same thoughts that this was disorganized. She was trying to convey so much, right, in such a short period of time.
Yes.
Like it's such a huge burden. But who did she have to run this by? Maybe a boyfriend or an assistant? Nobody in her corner to say, like, let me help you shape this. Like, who can she trust, right? So I just imagined her kind of alone taking on this message she had to communicate, and that broke my heart further. Second, to get to what you're saying now, is this, do you think, why the judge we just learned yesterday is not approving the removal of Jamie Spears as her conservator? She ruled not to do that. Do you think she's doing that because Britney is resisting a new evaluation? Or, I mean, I don't know if you can speculate to say, but...
Look, I'll speculate on one thing. I had an incident several months ago where an individual was hospitalized here in Los Angeles. This individual has threatened family members, legitimately threatened family members, legitimately assaulted people, has high levels of impulsivity, low levels of insight into their illness. And they were on a 3-day hold. The hold was extended. Once a hold is extended here in California, you have the legal right to file a writ, which means you're going to file paperwork to legally challenge the hospital's ability to hold you. This person then gets to be seen by telehealth by a judge, a mental health court judge. This individual presented as manic still saying some of the threatening things that they were saying, but was being somewhat polite, denying some things that the room full of clinicians were holding up as evidence of this is what this individual has done. And that judge released that individual that day back into the community. So that's what's really challenging for me is I'm trying to put this in a paradigm where all this makes sense, and it does not make sense. The inconsistency in the adjudication of these issues.
Yeah, it seems like it's existing outside of the law, honestly. Like this is not, and it seems like a rescue mission is needed. Like someone from somewhere else has to come in and fix it. Because like if we can't trust a judge appointed to the case, I don't know who else is there for her to have some kind of reckoning or breakthrough in this. I'm so confused, and I'm not glad you're confused, but I feel a little better that professionals, watching this and witnessing this also are completely confounded. I just don't get it.
Look, the nature of what I do for a living involves a lot of individuals in community mental health, and then individuals here in Los Angeles that are in the entertainment industry or high-end, high-money families where they are dealing with the same kind of issues as the example I gave before of the individual, and perhaps Britney's situation too. And I have never seen one work out this way. Now, the big picture too is that on the surface, these rules, these laws are written to protect people. They are written to protect people who are a danger to themselves, that are a danger to the community. But you have to fit the parameters of actions that prove you are a danger to yourself or a danger to others. And I want to say this, like, I'm going to step out of my clinical shoes for a second. I certainly don't want Britney to hurt herself. I don't want her to hurt anybody else. I don't want anyone in this position to hurt themselves. I want people to live as healthy a life as they possibly can. But that's what confounds me about this situation is, where is the immediacy of danger? I'm really confounded as to how they are managing this. I want, as many of Britney's supporters and fans want, I want the best for her. But I also do think that it's important for people to sit in the really uncomfortable gray area of, there may be some historical reasons for why she has been put in this conservatorship. And there may be some people involved that are really concerned about how will she manage her life. Oh. It's a very gray area, like it's a discussion about reproductive rights and whether or not she's allowed to make the decision to have children. It's like on one side is the horrific idea of eugenics. And on the other side is the knowledge of, if she does have a mental health condition that could be adversely impacted by a pregnancy, right, that's an issue. But ultimately, we can't even get into those unless we're talking about, does she have her full civil rights to be able to make informed decisions to the extent that she is capable of? And she is capable of, in my experience of working with other clients, I see her as capable of making way more decisions than she's being allowed to.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Wow. That is a profound statement. And I think it's wise that we consider that there's probably things we don't know and shouldn't know, and that there are people, hopefully, maybe with, if not her best interest, know something about why this has perpetuated for so long and continued. But really well said. And it just makes me really, really sad when I think about
I'm right
it.
there with you.
Helpful to understand some of the parameters, but then also not, because this so clearly isn't going by any legal protocol. It's from what it seems. So it's just bizarre. It's just bizarre. But it also is like, isn't that just celebrity culture? Like, it's full of exceptionalism. Like, the rules don't apply. They build their own solutions to systems in place for the rest of us. Is this another example?
I believe so. I think that's a really great way that you've described it. And for better or worse, having money changes a lot of things. I do think that this is an extraordinary case. and it should have everyone thinking. It should really have everyone thinking, look, there's so much money involved. It's a really sad situation for Britney. And I want people to understand that there are other people out there who have no voice to even get anywhere near this, that do need help. And there are people out there that do need conservatorship. And I've worked with clients that are really happy in their conservatorships because they have insight into their illness. Like, yes, things get really bad, even with medications. I'm really good 3/4 of the year. And then when spring hits, I have a break. I need to be on conservatorship. I've heard, I have been present in the courtroom. And then I've had, heard exact opposite, where people are really, really ill and have no insight into their illness. I mean, I think that Britney, without talking about what is protected and confidential information, I think she does have some insight. And if they would approach it differently, they would have more of an ingress into a higher quality of living for her. I was really disturbed about how they were making her go to a clinician's office in a suburb of LA, in Westlake Village, where she's exposed. She has a fantastic point. It's like, all of this money, they can literally have any person buy them for the first half of that clinician's day and have them drive to a secure location. I absolutely agree, without a doubt, that she is being treated very poorly by it being organized that way. That is traumatic. She says it herself. It's traumatic. And I completely agree with her.
What you're suggesting that they do and how they view her would be prioritizing her above, I think, her empire. And I really think that is where this all, obviously it's connected, but I think that's, her dad's paramount interest. And it's just completely screwed up the whole orientation of priorities.
One thing that I will observe that has been, this is public record now, that has been discussed, is that she does talk about the medication lithium. Lithium is a mineral salt. It's been in our culture for thousands of years, actually. It was discovered basically, or it was known primarily in ancient Greek culture. And at one time it was in 7-Up soda, briefly, like cocaine was in Coca-Cola. Lithium is still used today to manage primarily bipolar disorder. And it was a miracle drug over the past 100 years as it was refined and used appropriately. However, as medications have become more developed and more precise, we now have medications for a number of mental health conditions that are, for want of a better term, they're like sniper rifles instead of cannons. You're not going out and hunting bunnies with a bazooka the way it used to be done. So what seems to be implied is that Britney is admitting that she was using certain medications that were working really well for her. And then they were switched over to lithium and she had a bad reaction to it. And so she's sharing that information. Again, I'm not going to make a prognostication or a diagnosis because she is not my client. And I believe very strongly that she deserves privacy. I'm just saying that that's what the medication historically is used for. But there's better medications for most forms of bipolar disorder that are out on the market today than lithium.
Right. Now, take my layperson thought on this with a grain of salt, but wouldn't it also suggest, because I have my own experience with meds and depression and treatments, that an adverse reaction to something like lithium suggests also the wrong diagnosis? I mean, I actually had a psychiatrist tell me, well, we could give you this, and if it doesn't help, we kind of know your diagnosis isn't that, without being too specific. Is that possible? Did I have a quack?
No. I think that that's actually someone who who is actually a really responsible psychiatrist or diagnostician, because what we want to do in our culture is we want to think that people in positions of authority, especially doctors and even further within the medical community, psychiatrists, we want to think that they have solid, concrete, black and white answers all the time. And it just doesn't work that way. It's an art. Medication really is an art, because even though we share 99.999% of the same DNA, there are body weight issues, there are body ratio issues, there are gender issues, there are hormonal differences that have to be accounted for very carefully. In fact, I'm more suspicious of doctors that just immediately throw a medication at a client when they walk in the door. It's like, oh, you're depressed. Well, okay, well, let's start you off with blah, blah, blah. It's like, whoa. Let's sit down and let's figure out, is it an agitated depression? Is it depressed anxiety? Is it cyclothymia, which is sort of bipolar light? Is it, there's all many these things that should be considered that a lot of clinicians will not do. So I wish I could give you a more definitive answer. It is possible that they gave her the wrong medication for whatever diagnosis she has, but going on just what her presentation was in the most recent recording. When I use the term pressure, you think of like, if you have a water hose in your backyard and you turn on the spigot, that water comes through the hose with a great deal of pressure. The water is coming out with great force. That's the way we describe the speech. Is it possible that that could come completely from nervousness? Absolutely. She is a woman who is under a great deal of pressure and may or may not have mental health issue that we cannot confirm at all because we don't have enough information. But if she is asserting truthfully that she was given lithium, then it is possible that she was given it correctly, or it's possible that she was given it incorrectly in an effort to maybe control her behavior.
Yeah.
And that's really concerning to me.
Oh my God, big time. Okay, well, that's like a scratch of the surface. I will point people to your comprehensive episode and the documentary if nobody's watched it yet, or if people haven't,
Yeah, it's really worth watching.
I think so too. So thank you, Dr. Scott, for your insight on this. Really, really appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks for giving this a platform. I think that this is just necessary information that our country needs to know about. We need to know how these laws work, and in this case, how they don't work.
Yes. Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You are listening to DIE-ALOGUE, a courtroom conversation, a Patreon-only companion to Dialogue, a true crime conversation. Both podcasts are hosted and edited by me, Rebecca Sebastian, audio engineered by Jason Esri. You can follow me at Dialogue Pod on all social media platforms. Learn more and sign up for my newsletter at RebeccaSebastian.com. Thank you for listening.